I'd say the only times I've been recorded for TV news a couple of times talking about this or that, the lottery or the census or something like that. And the other times I've been videotaped have been for depositions. I do expert witness work. And being on camera, it makes me very nervous. So I'm really feeling on edge doing this. I'm very uncomfortable with the idea that this is all going to be out on the web for everybody to see. But the reason for webcasting it is actually not for this class this semester. It's to have some recorded lectures to go with the summer version of the class, which is an online class, so that they'll have something to look at, a talking head. I'm not entirely convinced that watching a recorded lecture has a whole lot of value added, but we'll find out in a while. I think the value is probably being here in the room, being able to ask your own questions. And I'll do my best to pay attention to whether you're giving signs of understanding or not understanding, and if it looks like there's a lot of blank looks, I will try to slow down, rephrase, etc. But you can do me a huge favor by asking me questions if you are lost, confused, if you think I'm wrong, whatever it is. And I will start by telling an anecdote to support why this is a good idea. When I was working on my PhD, I took a class from many brilliant people, but one especially brilliant man, George Backus. I was taking a course in continuum mechanics. My PhD is in geophysics. And there was some point in the lecture that I was just utterly lost. And, excuse me, Professor Backus, I don't see how you get from this line to that line. And he stood back and he looked at it for a moment and he said, "You're right, it's wrong." And he thought I was brilliant after that. And I was just lost. So anyway, you're doing yourself and everybody else in the room a favor if you ask questions when you find yourself lost. You might be lost because what I'm telling you is wrong. I mean, that happens, right? OK, still waiting for people to drift in before I really start going here. Another general thing about lectures, I will try to give you guys a 3-minute break about halfway through the class. I don't think anybody's attention span is an hour and 20 minutes long. So just a chance to stretch your legs and get a drink of water or whatever. If you see 45, 50 minutes go by and I haven't remembered to give you a break, feel free to remind me. Let's see. So if this class is from 11:10 to 12:30, then I should be shooting to give a break around 11:45, something like that. So that's what you can hope for. There's seats here in the middle if you guys want to find a place to be comfortable. Got another 2 or 3 minutes. I don't yet have a GSI for the class. When I do, I hope that you will route most of your day-to-day communication through the GSI, just because it's pretty hard for me to deal with everybody and deal with the technology behind the scenes and the message board, et cetera, all at the same time. So, let's see. There's still another seat in front, a couple here in the middle, here in the back. There's even chairs in the back row. You don't have to sit on the steps. Okay, I'm going to put my cell phone on vibrate. I would love it if everybody else would do the same. I'll get there a moment when we start the lecture. It's like a minute and a half. No. Okay, there's my department homepage with me looking like you will never see me in lecture. So statistics.berkeley.edu/tilde-stark, or if you go to the statistics homepage, you'll be able to find it. If you go from there to teaching, then this is our class here, Stat 21. And there's the course information. That's the syllabus for the class. And I'm going to talk you through some of the syllabus, and then your first problem set, the content of the problem set is the syllabus. You get credit for reading the syllabus. Okay? On the other hand, you get punished if you ask me questions that are answered in the syllabus. So I'm really doing this to kind of just read the syllabus. Read the instructions for the problem sets. Pretty much anything, any administrative question you might possibly have is answered there. If it isn't answered there, I'm happy to answer it, and I will then add it to the syllabus so that I don't have to answer it again next time. But please read the syllabus carefully before you send me your GSIs or anybody email about this stuff. A few more people drifting in, and we'll get going. There's a space right here in front, in the middle. Okay, I think it's officially at least 10 past, so I'll start officially. So welcome to Stat 21. This is a bit of an unusual class. It's intended for business and economics majors primarily. The textbook that we're using is an online book that I wrote. I emphasize some topics that are not typically taught as part of a statistics class. The reason that I cover these particular topics is that I found in the process of trying to teach statistics that people are lacking some skills in logical reasoning, counting, and other kind of more fundamental things that are absolutely crucial to making a good statistical argument or learning the probability in the statistics. So the course is actually going to start off with reasoning and fallacies, and then go on to do some descriptive statistics, then some counting, set theory, propositional logic, probability, and then more inferential statistics, hypothesis testing, confidence intervals, and things like that. The course is pretty demanding in the amount of time that it will take you to do all the work. The homework assignments can take quite a long time. That said, I'll explain the grading in a little while. I mean, it's possible to do well, and people do well. Very often, a large fraction of the class ends up making A's. Unfortunately, a smaller but still notable fraction of the class ends up failing. So, things end up heavily bimodal in statistical jargon, right? A lot of A's, a lot of not A's. How many of you are on the waiting list? Okay, quite a few. The waiting list, is not in my control at the moment. If you are, I don't expect that more than about 10% of the people who are enrolled are going to drop. So if you're beyond number 10 on the waiting list, it's pretty unlikely that you're going to get into the class. I can't promise that if your number is less than 10, you will get into the class. The enrollment limit is 100, and as people drop, other people will be added. But I'm going to freeze things sometime next week because there are assignments that I need to get going on, and I can't sort of set up access for people who aren't in the class, hoping that they'll get into the class, so forth and so on. My understanding is that the other section of Stat 21 still has quite a bit of room. So if you need Stat 21 and you can get the other one into your schedule, I would recommend that you do that. Okay, there's a gentleman in the back of the room with a video camera. This course is being webcast. I don't know exactly what the story is on posting the videos at the moment, But be advised that if you are in the room, you may end up on the camera, and your voice may end up being recorded, and that could end up on Berkeley's webcast, on iTunes University, or on YouTube. So if I will sort of take it as tacit consent that if you keep coming to the class, you are consenting to this. If it is not OK with you to be on camera, et cetera, you need to let me know. And I'm not sure what provisions ETS has for dealing with that exactly. But is there anybody who has a problem with that? Speak now to the camera. Yeah. No. OK. All right. So I'm assuming that we're good. And I will bear the brunt of the embarrassment of standing in front of this and having it on the web. OK. The URL for the course is this. Statistics.berkeley.edu/tilde, my last name, Stark, /teach with a capital T, /S21 with a capital S, /F09 with a capital F. And I just showed people who were here earlier how to get there from my homepage. Or why don't we start from the statistics department homepage, just for grins. OK, so there's the stat department. If you go to people, somewhere in there is me. There I am. There's the home page. Teaching is over here on the left. There's our course, Stat 21. And that is basically the syllabus and links to everything else that you need, including the online textbook and so on. The first, that's the textbook. That brings up a page that has the assignments and lets you look at your scores once you've submitted assignments. These are sublinks in that page. What's the schedule for the assignments, how to troubleshoot things. Course info is this page that we're looking at now, and these are all links to this page. So I'm going to walk you through a fair amount of this stuff, but there's a lot of information here. Please read it. The URL for the textbook is this. Sticky GUI, if we go back here, the link to it is over here. There's also a link from my homepage there. Oops, I'm sorry, that's from the teaching page. There from my homepage as well. All right. So let's talk about looking at the assignments, because that's going to be a concern for everybody. So from here, if we're on the course homepage, if you click Assignments and Scores, you get the following page. Now, notice it says none. We are not in the course none. We're in a different course. Our course is Stat 21, Fall 2009, UC Berkeley. You got to select that. If you don't select that, what you will see when you go down is that all of these assignments were due in the year 2000. OK? And if you try to log in, it'll say you're not enrolled, because you're not enrolled in that course. Okay. If you select our class and wait a second for the cursor to come back, then you will see the due dates for our course. So the first two assignments are due next week. All right. Let me just walk you through this to just kind of get you started. So my last name is Stark. First name is Philip. You are welcome to call me Philip. I'm not telling you what my student ID is. OK, what do you put in here? Put in your name. Put in your student ID. The email address that needs to go in here is the email address that the registrar had on record as of last week. Those are the email addresses that I pulled in order to set up access for people. So everybody who was enrolled as of, I think, Sunday, I have your email address, I have your student ID, I've set you up to have access to the problem sets, provided you select the right course. OK. So now if I go and click my scores on past assignments, what do you think I'm going to get? I haven't submitted any assignments, right? So don't expect to see anything there until you've submitted something. But if you click that, it'll then populate with it. All right, so this is a link to the book. This is a link to a problem set. So let me click this. And this is kind of typical of what problem sets look like. There's two panels. In the upper panel are the questions and the places to put the answers. In the bottom panel will be tools for answering those questions later on. There will be applets that do histograms or calculators or whatever kind of computational tool you need to solve the problem set. All right, so what's the URL for the course website? We were just talking about that, coincidentally. All right. So it's this. It's statistics.berkeley.edu, /Stark, teach with a capital T, S21 with a capital S, F09 with a capital F. That's the URL. OK, what's the URL for the book? It's this one. The S and the G are capitalized in sticky GUI. I just had to make something that was pronounced sticky GUI. It doesn't. No. OK. There is a discussion group for the course. It is through Google Groups. We'll talk about that momentarily. But just to show you what happens here, we scroll down. At the bottom, there is a button that says Submit for Grading. If I press Submit for Grading, it's going to give me a little confirmation screen. We'll do that in a second. OK, let's do this first. Save my answers. And I'll explain what this is about. OK, my answers have been saved as a cookie on the computer. They are not reliable storage. OK, when I press Save Answers, it's saving it here. It's not saving it on the server. If I went to a different computer, my answers would not be there. OK? Moreover, there are any number of things that will cause the cookies in your browser to be deleted. It's very good practice to have your privacy settings in your browser set up so that the cookies are automatically deleted whenever you shut your browser down. Now, if you're doing that for this course, then your intermediate answers are going to get deleted when you shut your browser down. If the cookies get too large, the server, in essence, barfs and says, your browser sent a bad request, blah, 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 OX, and gets some enormous string. And the only solution to that is to clear the cookies in the browser, thereby erasing any stored answers you have. Okay, what's the moral of the story? Write your answers down. Okay, write them down on paper. Keep a physical copy of what you're doing so that if the cookies get corrupted, if they get deleted, if something goes wrong, you have a way of recovering the work that you've already done. All right? So write your answers down. Don't trust the cookies. When they work, and then they don't. All right, so submit for grading. It's ready to submit. Press OK or cancel. I'm going to press OK in a second. But before I do that, there's going to come a time in the semester when you, I don't know, travel to the Midwest and reset the clock to Central Time from Pacific Daylight Time. And you're doing the homework at the last minute, and you're going to come down here, and there's not going to be a button that says Submit for Grading. All right? That's going to be because your clock is set to a different time zone where the problem set is already past due. It's not a bug. You need to reset the clock on your computer. So if the calendar is wrong on your computer, the clock is wrong on your computer, it can be in reality before the due date, but you won't have a submit button because your laptop thinks it's too late. All right. So now, if this gives you the idea that you can then set the clock back on your computer and submit the homework, you can do that, but the server will know that you submitted it late, and it won't count. So, all right. OK, so I'm going to press OK now. And this is going to say, oh, look at that. Aren't I smart? I got 2 out of 50 questions right, 4%. And I've submitted 1 of a maximum of 5. OK. Now, I'm going to do this again a couple more times just to show you what happens. So here it is. I wake this up again. Oh, my cookie is still there, and therefore the answers I put in before are still there. All right. Cookie hasn't been deleted. I'm going to submit it again. You know, maybe I'll get a better grade this time. OK. Oh, I got the same grade. No, let me try again. All right. You get to submit each problem set up to 5 times before the due date. Okay. Only the last submission counts. If you submit it once and get a great score, you don't have to submit it again. That counts. If you submit it 3 times and get 95%, and then on your 4th and 5th times, the best you can do is 80, I'm sorry, it's the last submission that counts, not the best submission. Okay? So just the last one. Now, the first 3 times you submit it, you see your score, but you don't see what you got wrong. The 4th and 5th time you submit it, you see which questions you got wrong. See these numbers, Q3, 4, 5? Those are all the ones I missed. All right. How do you match the Qs up to the problem set? So first of all, there is no way to get back to this screen. Write them down. They're gone forever if you navigate away from the page. You can't use the back button in the browser to get there. You're not going to be able to get back there. So this is your one chance after your 4th submission to see what you missed. That, everybody with me? OK. All right. So I missed everything but problems 1 and 2, I have a feeling. But what do these Q numbers mean? Let's go look back at the problem set again. Sorry. All right. Notice that this is Q1. This is Q2. This is problem 1. This is problem 2. Those numbers happen to line up. But some problems have more than one part. For example, problem 21 includes Q23, Q24, Q25, 6, and 7, right? The Q numbers refer to the answer blanks, not the problem numbers. So when it says I missed Q3, it's the answer blank labeled Q3. It's not problem 3. I mean, they might happen to be the same, but they aren't necessarily the same. OK. That's it. If I go and submit again, that'll be my last submission. You get up to 5. And there it's telling me that I missed exactly the same ones. I don't learn from experience. It's pretty common. And now if I go back and say, oh, well, maybe Professor Stark will be nice and let me have one more submission. No. OK? You'll get a similar message if you're late, if you submit it after the real time. Okay. All right. Is this pretty clear to everybody? OK. Now, the only browser that works reliably, and reliably, unfortunately, is in inverted commas still, with the problem set is Firefox. You have to use Firefox. If you have Firefox 3.0 point something or other, it seems to work better than 3.5 point whatever, which came out about a month and a half ago. 3.5, for some reason, has some freezing issues. The book, almost everything else in the course will work with most browsers, including Opera, Safari. Really don't recommend anybody use Internet Explorer. It's a security risk to you. But Firefox, Chrome, they'll work with most of the stuff. But for the problem sets, what I've debugged with most thoroughly is Firefox, and that's what I'm claiming to support. OK, yes? Well, 3.0 point something is better than 3.5 point something. But if you've already upgraded to 3.5, it should work. He said, fingers crossed. OK, you need to have JavaScript enabled in the browser. You need to have Java enabled in the browser. Some of you might not have Java installed or might not have it enabled. You may have to download it from Sun. There's some description of how to do that. But if we go to, like, I'm using a Mac, so this is maybe different from what you're going to see. But under, where is it? Is it under main? Content. So I've got enable JavaScript, enable Java, ticked. OK. You also need cookies enabled, but you can limit it to just cookies that come from the originating server. So no third-party cookies need to be allowed. Cookies pose a little bit of a security risk. All right. What else? Let's go back to this and see what I've forgotten to tell you about. All right, so first 2 assignments are due next week. I mentioned that. First assignment is about the syllabus. I would really, really, really not like to get email unless it's absolutely essential that I get the message and that nobody else get the message. So if you see a bug or a typo in the book, in the online materials and the problem set, I want to know about it. I want to know about it as soon as possible. I want to fix it. I'm very grateful, so forth and so on. But if you don't follow the instructions and that results in something unexpected happening, that's not a bug, right? So if you do find a bug or a typo, so for example, if it's before the due date on the problem set and there's no submit button, that's not a bug. That's your clock set to the wrong time, okay? All right. To report a bug or a typo, there's a bunch of information that I need, including your student ID, the page you were on, what browser you were using, what operating system you have. It's all detailed in the syllabus. But there's a laundry list of stuff that I need to do, I need to look at in order to be able to debug it and figure out what's going on. Typos don't require that. If you need an accommodation for the exam, if you're a DSP student, please let me know as soon as possible so I can make arrangements for proctors. If through circumstances beyond your control, you are unable to complete the course and you are in good standing up to that point, then you are eligible for an I grade, in which case you should contact me to arrange for an I grade and what you're going to need to do to remove the I grade. And then if you have some issue with the graduate student instructor, I'm not suggesting that you would. I don't even know who the GSI is going to be yet, right? So it's not like I have qualms about the GSI. But if something's happening that you need to discuss with me privately and you can't discuss with the GSI, then that's a reason to send email or meet with me before class or meet with me during the break or meet with me after class or come to office hours or something like that. If you have an administrative question that isn't already answered in the syllabus or you have a question about the course material, the thing to do with that is to post it to the discussion group. We're going to use Google Groups for the discussion board. Now let me talk about that a little bit. Things are easiest, and it might even be the only possible way of doing it, if you have a Gmail address. How many people here do not have a Gmail address? A relatively small number? OK. I believe that everybody can just sign up for a Gmail address at this point. The email address that you're going to use for the discussion board is not necessarily the email address that the registrar has for you. So you're going to have, in essence, two email addresses for this class. The one that you use to log into the problem sets, the official one that you have on record with the university, and then the email address that you use for Google Groups, which is a Gmail address. To get onto the Google group, what you need to do is go to the group, request to join. In the request to join, say what your SID is. I will then look at your SID, look at the roster for the class, make sure you're enrolled, and let you into the discussion board. Okay? So at the moment, this is limited to people who are enrolled in the class, not people who are on the waiting list. I'm not expecting that a lot of people are going to drop, but I'll deal with that as things fall out. Maybe what I should do is include the top 10 people on the waiting list for now or something like that. So if you're in that situation, come to me after class, and I'll try to figure out what to do. All right. The discussion board, I tried over the summer to limit the number of threads. That didn't work very well at all. So post a question to the discussion board. I will try to answer it within 12 hours on weekdays. In fact, you will find that I usually answer it within a couple of hours, even if you send it at 3 a.m. I mean, I just sort of, I'm a little compulsive. So if you have a question about course material or an administrative question that isn't answered on the syllabus or in the other stuff that's online, post it to the discussion board. The reason for doing it there is that many other people may have the same question. Now, the discussion board really doesn't help as a method of posting things publicly if people don't read it. So before you post your question to the discussion board, having already read the syllabus and already read the instruction for the problem set, search the discussion board to see if your question is answered on the discussion board already. Okay? It's kind of irritating to get 17 questions about exactly the same thing. And I'm not fun when I'm irritated. So, all right. I don't know of a good reason to call me on the phone unless you are injured or something and need to do, there's really an emergency. Otherwise, please don't. My office phone forwards to my cell phone, which is by my bedside at night. And if you think, oh, I'll just call and leave a message at 3 in the morning, you're actually going to wake me up. So don't, please. All right, this is the URL for the discussion group. It's also mentioned in the syllabus. Once you have a Gmail address, if you don't already, go to groups, search for this, or else navigate directly to that. I mentioned that in your request to join the group, you should include your SID. That is the only thing that ever goes to the group with your SID on it. That email that requesting to join goes to me. It doesn't go to the discussion board. Your SID doesn't get posted. Okay? If you think something went wrong, you want to make a bug report, the bug report comes to me by email, not through the discussion board, because the bug report needs to have your SID and other personal identifying information. If you post your SID to the discussion board, everybody in the class knows your SID. Okay? They might also know your email address. That means that they can submit homework for you. Okay? Including, well, anyway, just don't go there. It's protected by FERPA. I don't want it going off university-based servers, so keep it to yourself. GSI is yet to be determined. Office hours, I'm going to have office hours from 1 to 2 p.m. at the Qualcomm Cyber Cafe. That's the cafe that just opened in the Citrus building over there that has the big Pete's sign out front. So that's where I'll be having office hours. Right now, it seems like there's a lot of seating there, and it isn't very crowded, and it's just a nice place, and there's caffeine available, which is always good. Okay. Let me jump ahead to talking about the homework, because we did most of that, and then I'll come back and talk about the book a little bit more. All right, so typically there's going to be 2 assignments per week. After the due date, you will be able to go back and see the solutions to your problems. And the way that works is the same way that works in the book, so we'll see that momentarily. How is homework graded? So as I mentioned before, only the last of your up to 5 submissions counts. If you get less than 80% on that last submission, you don't get any credit at all for the homework. Okay? This is a mastery-based grading. You need to keep trying until you get at least 80% right. If you get at least 80% right, then your score is whatever your score is. So if you get 80%, you get 0.8 points for that homework. If you get 100%, you get 1 point for that homework. Okay? Now, the homework grade at the end of the semester is based on that. It's sort of the percentage that you got right, with a 0 substituted for every score less than 80. Okay. All right. Let's, I think, talk through the rest of this and then go back and start talking about the book, because that'll be a chance to start presenting some material. Yes?
For your office hours, is that every day?
That's right after class on Thursdays, but not this week. I mean, it'll start next week. Yeah. So 1 to 2 Thursdays after class. There's a midterm. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
For all the assignment stuff and Google groups and whatnot, if we're on the wait list, should we apply now, or is it true? Which way should we get in the class?
I think if you are at number, if your number on the wait list is 10 or below, come see me right after class, and I will set you up with access to the homework and make sure that you can get into the Google group. If you're on the waiting list but your number is above 10, I just really don't think you're going to get into the class. I mean, I'm not, it could happen, and monkeys could fly out of my butt, but so. Anyway. Okay. There's a midterm in class on Tuesday, the 6th of October. That's going to be administered by a GSI. I actually have to be in Washington, D.C. for a conference on that day, so I know I'm not going to be here. The exams typically, there's discussion of them, there's practice materials online and so forth, and we'll talk about that a lot more as things move along, but most people will not feel time pressure on the midterm. I mean, I really try to make the exams fit comfortably within the allotted time. Typically on final exam, people start leaving between an hour and 5 to an hour and 15 minutes into a 3-hour exam. Some people stay till the end. Same thing with midterms. Typically, in an hour and a half midterm, people will start leaving after 45 minutes, 50 minutes, something like that. So that doesn't mean that you won't feel time pressure, but most people don't. Okay, so midterm, 6th of October in class, no makeup times, that's it. Final exam, Tuesday, 15th of December from 5 to 8 p.m. If I'm not offering any makeup times for the final or the midterm, if you are on a sports team or something that's going to require you to be at an away meet for that particular day or whatnot, come and see me. But that's basically the only reason that I would make some kind of accommodation for that. DSP students notwithstanding. We clear on all this stuff? Okay, we'll back up here and talk about the book a little bit and how to work with this stuff. Actually, why don't we take a minute break, or is this, since we're kind of just chatting, this doesn't require a whole lot of focus, we'll blow through. Let's keep going today, all right? Okay, so how to use the book. So first of all, it doesn't work if you don't read it. You really do have to read it. And I've made an effort to sort of put important things in colored boxes to say them again, but I don't tend to say things 16 times. So a lot of books say things, and they say them again, they say them again, they say them again. Here, typically, things are said once, and then it's presumed that you know them. So you got to read it. Work all the examples and the exercises in the chapter. If you reload the chapters, many of the exercises and examples change. So you can get a virtually unlimited amount of practice on the material to complement the homework. If you go to do the homework and you're puzzled by something, you can go look in the chapter, try a practice example that's similar to it, reload it, get a different version, reload it, get a different version until you're pretty comfortable with what's going on, and then answer it. There are not problems that are exactly like every homework assignment. And this is a source of some consternation, confusion, irritation, whatever, on all parts repeatedly. But there is a common epistemic error on the part of students that there is some bestiary of problems, that there's sort of like some zoo, and there's a specimen of each possible problem, and that my job as the professor is to show you one of each possible problem so that then when you see that problem again, you know what to do. Okay, life isn't like that. Right? There is no bestiary of problems. Every problem requires thinking things through from scratch. This course is not about learning formulae and figuring out which formula to use in a particular situation. The formulae, I'm hoping to teach you all how to get the formulae in the first place, right? So where does this stuff come from? How do you think about it? Because if you're thinking about it straight, you can derive all the formulae from scratch, right? And the formulae are just sort of answers to problems that come up often. They're not the answer to every possible problem. So what you need to do is formulate the problem carefully, be really clear on what's given, on what's being asked of you, what's going on, what's the connection to reality, what's the math here, how do you turn the words into symbols, so forth and so on. And if you can do that well, there's no question of which formula to use. It'll just drop out. You'll just find it. So this course is really not about memorizing things. It's about thinking things through, reasoning from first principles. And that's why the logic is so important, and that's why we're starting with logic as a topic. So you will find in the homework problems that are not superficially the same as any problem in the textbook. On a deep level, they're often very similar. And the issue is to somehow figure out how to break it into pieces, find pieces that you recognize, understand what's going on, and figure it out. It's really about figuring it out. So a lot of figuring things out. Okay, there are footnotes scattered throughout the chapters. Some of those footnotes, in essence, answer questions that are asked in the problem sets. So there's the footnotes. There's some things have additional technical detail. Some have anecdotes. Some have things that I think are funny. I don't know whether you will. But click the footnotes. Have a look. So we'll get there in just a second. Any questions so far? Yes?
On Fairfax, it said that one of the submitted text was statistics by curves. Is that book not necessary for this course?
The only required text for this book is the online book. And I think I might have required a book called How to Lie with Statistics by Huff. If I didn't require it, you should go buy it and read it anyway. It's about this thick. It's a paperback. It's probably the best single book ever written about statistics. It's good bathroom reading. I mean, it's really, you know, it doesn't take long to go through it, and it'll change how you read the newspaper forever. And that's really my goal in this course, is to change how you think about quantitative evidence, change how you read the newspaper forever. I'm really trying to get at how you think. I'm not trying to teach you a bunch of facts. All right. The book by Friedman, Pisani, and Purvis is recommended. If you find my exposition opaque or just doesn't work for you for whatever reason, that's an absolutely fabulous paper book. It's probably the best paper book out there. It's a better written, better crafted text than my own online book. But I'm doing it my way. So, okay. So yeah, the book by Friedman, Pisani, and Purvis, it's now in its 4th edition. An older edition would be fine if you want to read it to supplement things. You might find it particularly useful to supplement a number of the chapters that we're going to do. Some things to do with descriptive statistics, like the mean, median, and mode. Things to do with scatter plots and correlation coefficient, regression, observational studies versus experiments. Its description of the box model, how to draw a parallel between some real-world situation and drawing tickets out of a box. It's particularly good supplement for this course on all those topics. There are topics where we're going to go a lot further than that book does, in particular in probability, in counting arguments, in hypothesis testing, and confidence intervals. There's a variety of things we're going to do that book won't be a lot of help with because it doesn't really address them in the same depth. Other questions? Yes?
Do you have a hard copy?
Do I have a hard copy of the book?
Yeah.
I have not made a physical reader of the book. I can do that and set it up for you guys at Copy Central if enough people want it, but let me show you why it's just not going to mimic the electronic version very well. One of the problems is that the chapters have applets built into them to have you do little experiments as you read through. And while having a printed version of it, it sort of freezes one thing in, but you can't really do the experiment. So it's maybe useful for note-taking, but it's not the same experience, not the same thing. Other questions? Yes?
Will the online book be available after you finish the class?
Oh yeah, no, it's free, it's available, it's out there, it's open to the world, there's no charge, it's just there. The question was, will the book remain available after the course? It will as long as I remain available, so I can't. Other questions about this? All right, so let's go to the book. Oh, it's already open over here. That's fine. Okay. I'll let you read the preface and the introduction on your own. The introduction, has some hints on how to read through this stuff, but the first meat that we're going to see is Chapter 2 on reasoning and fallacies. Can those of you in back read that? Is it big enough? Okay, just navigating this stuff to get started. So home will take you back where we just were. Text table of contents has all these chapters listed and brings up a glossary in the bottom. There's a lot of links from the chapters into the glossary. When you click a glossary link, it brings up the entry in the bottom pane. So you click it in the top pane, and it'll come up in the bottom pane. All right. The other links here, this will take you to the assignment page. Again, remember that you have to select our class. Give the page a chance to load. If you change things before the page is fully loaded, sometimes the browser gets confused. So you want to wait for the cursor to come back to normal, et cetera, before you do that. There's a calculator, pop-up calculator, that will do various things relevant to the class, including combinations, uniform random numbers, and square roots, and kind of pretty much the stuff that you need for the course. These general tools, this is a whole page of things that can be useful. Mostly this is a holding area for things that appear in the text in another guise. So most of these tools will appear in place where you need them. But if you ever want to go looking for them, that's where to go look. The review is a list of practice midterms and finals from other iterations of the course. When you go looking there for practice materials, if you see something, if you see a question about something that we didn't cover it, it's not going to be on the exam. Okay? I collect domain names. It's one of these, geeky things, I guess. I own, will that be on the final.com? Do I need to know this.com? NoPartialCredit.com, and a handful of others. So, it won't be on the final if we didn't cover it. All right. Then, so that's review. This other stuff is fairly minor. Let's go back to the text table of contents, and let's go to chapter 2. So we're going to start off with reasoning and fallacies, and just again to show you what happens with this. If the green links are glossary links. If I click it, it's going to take me down in the bottom pane to that glossary entry. Okay. There are in-text notes like this. This is what I was encouraging you to click before. Okay, so this is extra information in some cases that you don't care about. In some cases, it's something that makes good cocktail conversation when you guys are old enough to drink. And in some cases, it's a joke or an anecdote or something. In some cases, it's something useful for solving a homework problem. So that's where to go. Structure of the chapters is all similar. There's some introduction. There's some stuff. I try to put important things in boxes. There's examples and exercises. Here's an exercise. It is not sunny and warm, therefore it is not warm. All right, so let me reload the page. Actually, I'm not sure if this is going to reload back to. It is sunny or warm. It is sunny, therefore it is not warm. All right, so you get different examples and exercises when you reload. Typically, not everything changes, but many things change. All right. Okay, when you answer this. That's a fallacious argument. If I click this, it will tell me what the right answer is. In the problem sets, after the due date, you will get that sort of a question mark next to the answer. And when you put your answer in, you will either see a red X or a green check. So that's the mechanism by which you see the answers to the homework assignments after the due date. You go back, and there's that little box there that you can look at your answers in. Okay, some questions have more detailed solutions worked out, he said, but for some reason there's something not happening here. A bug. Go imagine. How could that be? Okay. All right. So then there's a quick, at the end of the chapter, there will be some kind of a summary and key terms from the chapter. When you are going back to study for the midterm or the final, a really good way to do that is look at the things that I have bothered to give a name to assign a section to. If I put an entry in the table of contents for it, I probably think it has some importance. So when you read through, if you see rules of reasoning, what is he talking about? If it doesn't ring a bell, you want to go look and refresh your memory. Okay. At the bottom of those pages where we were just before, if there's a key term down here and you don't recognize it, you want to make sure that you refresh your memory of what that means. Okay. The other thing is to do the practice exams, the practice midterm, practice final. The exams are substantially easier than the homework. I expect the homework sets to take you several hours. Okay, so an exam is only supposed to take you several hours in all at most, right? I'm trying to gear even the final exam to take less than 3 hours. So going back over the homework is a good thing, but it's not the ideal thing for studying for the final. Yes, question?
At what points are the midterms and practice midterms and finals available?
Right now. Yep. I may add more to them. But the question was, at what point are the practice midterms and finals available? And the answer is they're online. They're right there if we click them. There is not currently an exam online that covers reasoning and fallacies because I just introduced that last semester, but what I think I'm going to do is put the final exam from the summer course up online so that you guys have that to study from as well. So there will be an example of that sort of stuff. Other questions right now? Good? Okay. Oh my goodness, we're almost out of time. Let's just quickly start talking about the actual topic, which is reasoning and fallacies. So this is pointy-headed stuff on some level, and on some other level, it's incredibly important because people misuse logic all the time in ways that can be more or less persuasive. An awful lot of political discourse involves committing one kind of fallacy or another and passing it off as valid reasoning. The fundamental kind of thing we're going to look at in this chapter is an argument. So what's an argument? Well, it's a collection of statements. Some of the statements are called premises, and one of the statements is called the conclusion. And the idea is that you can get from the premises to the conclusion by logic, so that if an argument is valid, if on the assumption that the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. Okay? Now, the premises can in fact be false. That's a different issue. That goes to soundness rather than validity. An argument is sound if it is both valid and its premises are true. Okay? So a valid argument is sound if the premises are true. So here's an example of an argument. If A is true, then B is true. A is true, therefore B is true. Okay? That's a valid argument. Okay? We can't tell whether it's sound or not because we don't know. So these are the premises. If A is true, then B is true, and A is true. Those are the premises. The conclusion is that B is true. The conclusion is usually flagged by a keyword like therefore or hence or we see that or something like that. Okay? We usually omit the words is true and just assert the statement itself. So another way of writing this would be if A, then B, A, therefore B. Okay? So we just leave out the words is true. And if something is false, so if, for example, if A is false, a different way of saying that is not A. We are asserting that not A is true. Okay. All right, so whenever you see an expression like this, whenever you see a piece of math in this course, it's a good idea to try to plug something from the real world into the mathematical expression in order to make sense of it. So here's an example. A might be, it is sunny. B might be, I will wear sandals. And then the conclusion, so I'm saying it is sunny, therefore I will wear sandals. All right. In this case, it might even be sound. All right. So suppose that it isn't sunny. Does this say anything about whether I will wear sandals or not? No. Okay. So if it isn't sunny, then it can still be true that if it is sunny, I will wear sandals, whether I'm wearing sandals or not on a day that isn't sunny. Right? That somehow the only way to falsify that statement is for it to be sunny and for me not to wear sandals. Okay. If it isn't sunny, then whether I wear sandals or not doesn't make that hypothesis false, that premise false. Is that clear to everybody? Okay. All right. So here is an example of a valid argument that perhaps isn't sound. Okay. Cheese more than 1 billion years old is stale. The moon is made of cheese. The moon is more than 1 billion years old. Therefore, the moon is stale cheese. Okay? If the premises were true, the conclusion would have to be true. So it's a valid argument, but I'm pretty well convinced that the moon is not made of cheese, and therefore this isn't a sound argument. Okay? Valid, but not sound. Okay? All right. here are some valid rules of reasoning. Actually, are we out of time? No, we got one more minute. All right. So A or not A. It is always the case that either A is true or A is false. It's one or the other. There's no middle ground. It's true or it's false. No quantum logic here. Okay. It is never the case that A is both true and false. Okay? You've got one or the other, not both. If A is true, then the assertion that A or B is true is also true. Okay? If A and B are both true, then A and B are both true. This is all stuff that you've probably seen before. If A is not true, then the assertion that A and B are both true is not true. Okay, now A and B is the same as B and A, so not B, therefore not A and B also follows from this, right? That's the same rule, just written in different letters. Okay, A or B, not A, therefore B. If A or B must be true, and A isn't true, then it must be the case that B is true. Otherwise, A or B couldn't be true. That's called denying the disjunct. These rules go back to classical times. This is very, very old stuff. The negation of A and B is equivalent to the negation of A or the negation of B. If the conjunction A and B, so A and B is a conjunction, if that is false, then one or the other or both of A and B are false. Right? The negation of a disjunction, or the negation of A or B, if A or B is false, then both A must be false and B must be false. If A, then B, A, therefore B. That's called affirming the precedent. Modus ponendo ponens, affirming by affirming. All these things have Latin names. If A, then B, not B, therefore not A. If A, then B, and B didn't happen, well, how can this still be true? Well, A must not have happened. Okay? All right. Now, a common error, we'll get into fallacies next time, but a common fallacy is if A, then B, not A, therefore not B. Okay, that doesn't follow. All right. See you guys on Tuesday. If you're in the top 10 on the waiting list, stick around and we'll figure out how to get you in the class.